welcome back to the channel. If you're new here on this channel, I share with you delightful, family-friendly, and faith-based movies and television shows. So yes, y'all, we are back with movie chats. Y'all like that? Y'all never know when I'm gonna do the outburst. Yes, today's topic is, does desperation lead to evil? Okay. Oh my goodness. All right. Y'all remember the movie I had put up the review yesterday, Chasing Hope. That gave y'all a little bit of time. Not a lot of time, but a little bit of time to watch the film. Definitely watch the review so you can kind of have an idea where I'm coming from. And I said that yes, yesterday I had to do 2 takes because it was just running too long and I had to just get rid of the first take because it was like almost 8 minutes. I'm like, oh, that's just too much. So yeah, I was like, okay, I must have more to say. I promise you, I'm not keeping you too long. At least I don't think so. All right. So in this movie, yes, we know Hope here, the protagonist, lost her job, all that kind of stuff, knew there was something else going on behind the scenes. You don't just lose your job out of nowhere. I mean, can you imagine you putting, like I said, you putting forth all your effort, you know you are good at what you do. Hope knew she was good at what she do. She handled the finances of this company and she trying to cover her butt as well as theirs. So in order to do that, she has to make sure all finances are accounted for. There got to be some kind of paper trail, okay? And as she is just researching this, she saw some discrepancies and she went to her boss and, you know, laid it out for him and notice that side eye. Like, okay, you don't seem too bothered by this. You should, because we know that people who have money a lot of times love money, okay? They know where every little penny is going, coming from, all that kind of stuff. So it just looked weird and real funny. And I would have been the same way, but of course it didn't really affect her to the point in that moment where she just went and was like, okay, let me go start to see what is going on. No, when you are confident in your job and you know you're doing your job to the best of your ability, you know you personally is not doing something shisty and shady and all of that, what would give you the reason to even really question that? I mean, you know you good. You're not going to necessarily think your boss is up to something, even though he gave you that side eye. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna really be thinking that. So I understood. I feel like that was very, very realistic at the beginning of this film with Hope, her response in that. But I understand her response the next day. Okay, you show up to work and they let you go. You like, yes, I know y'all been downsizing here and there, but I know my position. I know my worth, okay? I am worth keeping around. I'm handling y'all's money as well as my money, okay? What in the world are you firing me for? So that leads Hope to do some digging. And it was just crazy, y'all, because I just really put myself in that situation. I'm like, yes, I can understand that weight. I mean, we know if you're the type, you're living from paycheck to paycheck, or you got to punch a clock, you have one source of income, this is like heart-wrenching to somebody. I mean, you usually, before your money come in, you kind of already done spent the money. You know where it's got to go, whether it's paying bills or whatever you got to do. It's usually spent before it done hit your hands. In a lot of cases, when you punching a clock and you only have one source of income. So I understood Hope. Like, a person would think, okay, they done let you go. Girl, you ain't got time to be trying to sue these people, because that's a process to sue somebody. You got time for that. You still got bills coming in. They're not waiting because you trying to dig up something, and then when you go to your lawyer tells you pretty much you don't have a case, okay? You don't have any evidence because they were still downsizing it. You have to prove that this was really, you know, something that was directed towards you. And when her lawyer asked her, is there any other downsizing that's been going on? And she was like, yes, you know, she even knew in that moment, like, what real case do you have? You know, she knew on her heart that, okay, something is going on, something is going down. Like, yeah, just from, you know, the finances wasn't right. And, you know, and the way her boss responded, she just put them 2 and 2 together. So I get Hope, you know, the entire film. I felt like she was very, very realistic. The way that she responded to a lot of things. There were some cases, y'all know, it's just the movie world. There are some cases where you just be like in different scenes. Nobody knew, and they mama will respond like that, okay? Like when that break-in happened at the house, when her boss Jake sent somebody over there to take care of business, okay? When that happened, who's gonna respond like that? Let me tell y'all, that scene was just, forgive me, y'all. I'm just feeling like they just put that in there for some comic relief, some humor, all right? When somebody break in her house, okay, she grabs a knife. One of them big old knives, right? I totally get that. I get that. That's probably what most people how most people respond. If you ain't got no other weapon or whatever and you in the kitchen, yes, you might as well grab the biggest thing, okay, to slow them down. You gotta do some chopping, all right? You gotta do what you gotta do. But she looks at it and she just like, when she picks it up and looks at it like, okay, I'm just crazy. I'm being ridiculous. And put the knife back and you grab a pan. A pan, girl, what you gonna do? Scramble some eggs and bacon? I was just like, that just had to be, it had to be for comic relief. Because you could not be serious. You can't be serious. What in the world you are gonna do with a frying pan, honey, when you have a choice between a frying pan and a butcher knife? Come on. That should be simple. I mean, it don't take a genius. A 3-year-old would know what you want to grab, okay? And I was just like, no, this is just ridiculous. So it was just a few moments in the film that was like that. I just felt like, it's no way in the world that somebody would respond in the way that you respond. And at the same time, I feel like they kind of watered down the film. When you have forgive me, y'all, when you accumulate so many moments like that characters are doing something that's just plain out ridiculous, it waters down the film. It brings it down, like when the viewer, our hearts are racing, we don't know what's about to come, what's gonna go down, is somebody gonna lose their life or whatever. You bring down that heart racing and all that, whatever, that anxiety, if we happen to develop some anxiety, then you bring that down, okay? So it was so many moments like that I felt like that's what kind of we was treading back and forth between mystery and thriller, and that kind of just watered down the film when you just have characters doing some ridiculous stuff. Okay, we can't take you serious then. And that's how I felt. Like, hope I can't take you serious, all right? And I need to take you serious because somebody's after you, okay? Somebody's after you. You have no idea. In your mind, you are thinking, all right, you after me because you see me digging. You know I know something. I was over finances and you fired me. That made sense from her perspective. But it went deeper than that because here we are introduced to Jake. That is her boss. And it went so much deeper than that, y'all, because his life was on the line, okay? He was diagnosed with some kind of form of cancer, rare strain. He has already been going, dealing with it through medical procedures. They have not been working. He has been told early on in the film, basically you have months, almost weeks really to live. We really don't know, but you're gonna be out of here. You definitely don't have a year. And so you can feel like the desperation kicking in, and while I'm just like dissecting his character, like really analyzing his character, I'm just going back and forth between, were you really a good person and this drove you to evil? Did desperation drive you to this point of pure evil? Because you don't step into pure evil when you are willing to harm an innocent person. This person did nothing to you, okay? Hope did absolutely nothing to him. And that was established at the end of the film when she even asked him, like, what did I do? Do I even deserve this? And he was like, no, you don't deserve this. But that's just how life is. If you don't fight for yourself, nobody's gonna fight for you. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So that's where I was just like, I don't know. I was a little bit confused, y'all. I was trying to really understand if Jace was a decent person and this just happened to happen. And like he even said, stuff just happens to people. Like life just happens. But just because life happens, does that mean that you have to go this far, willing to take somebody else's life, willing to harm somebody else, willing to ruin their life because an unfortunate thing happened to you? Does that make it right? I mean, it just makes you go back and forth through that, and then you find yourself, because that's what I love about movies, stories, because it can be books too, because whatever. I just put myself in these character situations. It is easy to relate to Hope because obviously she is the protagonist here. She didn't do nothing wrong. Technically, she is innocent to a degree, like all of us living in this world. I mean, yes, we all, like we know, according to the scripture, we're born into sin. And of course, that's why, people say, okay, you sin every day. It is, and God doesn't feel like one sin is worse than the other. But of course, mankind, we have levels. We compare this. Okay, this makes you a worse person because you did that, but according to God, you are all the same. He look at it all the same. If we judge ourselves according to his standards, we'll all have a little bit more sympathy and empathy for one another, because we'll be like, okay, I'm no better than a murderer, I'm no better than an abuser or whatever, even though I never done those things. But when you look at it through the eyes of God, he sees it all the same. So yeah, I'll be right back, y'all. Okay, y'all, I am back. I had a little bit of interruption. Don't you just don't like when that happen when you are in the midst of a movie chat? Like, okay, that is like somebody pausing the film, pausing the movie when it's about to get to the good part. Anyways, y'all, yes, okay, I know before I left, y'all, we was talking about the comparisons of sin, how God sees sin as compared to how humans see it. Okay, so yes, I was trying to figure out exactly, so I don't know if I was just wanting to have a little bit of sympathy for Jace, or if I just wanted to hate his guts because what he was doing to Hope. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, especially living in the world we're living in today, with so many people have that experience, unfortunately, you know, being diagnosed with something and all these different things, and hearing that news that there is nothing else that doctors can do, or give you that tiny bit of hope, like that 1% hope, like, okay, if you can get this to happen, possibly your life will be spared, or, you know, extended for a certain amount of years, months, or whatever. And I know in Jake's case, he was pressed for time, because he even asked the doctor, like, okay, what are the symptoms that it is getting worse, that I'm basically, you know, I only have so much time to live. And he told him certain things, and it was literally like the next day, y'all, that he started experiencing some of the things that the doctor was saying, coughing and stuff, the shortness of breath. And so I can imagine the desperation in him, and you feel for him, because this is something real. This is something that a lot of people, I can say most, but it has been a quite deal of people experience, especially in the time that we're living in, unfortunately. And so I feel him and I understand him, but at the same time, and that's when, you know, films, you know, you're kind of doing a good job when you're praying within the film, because you know the film is already made. So what can your prayer really do? Okay, it's already done. But still, you find yourself praying, because when you put yourself in a situation and you're like, okay, I would hope, and that's when I'm talking to God myself, y'all, you know, in the midst of this, especially afterwards, you know, and I'm just playing these things over and over in my mind after the film, and I'm like, God, I would just hope that I don't ever be that desperate to the point where I would do something like Jake did in this film, or feel like your life is more valuable than somebody else's life just because of what you're going through. That does not make it fair. It does not make it right, because unfortunate things happens to everybody at different moments and on different scales. Yes, Hope didn't experience some kind of diagnosis like you did, but that doesn't make her life any less valuable because you have experienced something like this. I mean, it's like, who are we? You don't have that right. And yeah, you get that. You want to be sympathetic and empathetic towards this character here, because nobody would want to be in that situation. That is unfortunate, even for your worst enemy to experience something like that. You don't want something like that to happen to anybody, no matter what. But at the same time, it's like you just can't do that. You can't ruin somebody else's life just because you are miserable, and because this thing happened to you. That's just life, just living in this world. Unfortunately, it's just things happen, and it's sad, and we don't have the answers for them. We can't tell you why it happened, where did it come from, what did I do. Sometimes, like, you didn't do anything. And even Jake understood that, because he even said, you know, towards the end when he was trying to take Hope out, like when she was like, what did I do, and all these different things, and he even said, you didn't do anything, just like he didn't do anything to experience this illness that he was going through. And so it just really makes you think about stuff, y'all, because we know movies a lot of times mirror real life, and we have to, and that's why I shared that scripture at the end of my review for this film. A man would transgress for a piece of bread. And it's like, if a man would transgress for a piece of bread, how much more if his life is on the line? If you would transgress just to eat. Of course, a man would transgress to save his life. But it's like, very few people will, you know, just like go out with it, you know, have it go. Like, they're gonna remain in integrity. They're gonna remain walking the way God said because it's what God said, even to the end. No matter what you gotta lose, no matter what you gotta sacrifice, no matter what news you hear. I ain't on here to say that it's easy, y'all, because when you think about it, it really isn't easy. But that determines like what's really in your heart, like who are you really living for? Whose side are you really on? It's when the hard stuff happens. It's when the unfortunate things happen that you didn't see coming, that you feel like you didn't deserve, that you feel like it didn't come from God. And will you in those times do what's right? Will you make the right decision? Will you walk in integrity? Will you just trust God to the end, even though it may not turn out the way that you want it to turn out? In Jake's case in this film, it was a blessing. It turned out in a way that he would have light as far as his life, but of course he has to still pay for what he did, so the system's still gonna do what he gotta do. But I guess in his case, I would think, okay, well, they gonna do what they gotta do, but at least you here for them to do something to you. But I don't know how he felt, because it ended like that, so we don't really know exactly how he felt or what state of mind that he was really in. But I do know, and I did appreciate that, but then I'm not even sure if that was even sincere. Like, when he got caught, he apologized to Hope, asked for her forgiveness. But did you ask for forgiveness just because you got caught? Because I feel like forgiveness, if it's really in your heart, you would do it way before the moment that you got caught. That was his moment, when it was just him and her in that room, when the police and all of that stuff was in there, to go ahead and ask for her forgiveness and have that moment where you have to think to yourself, like, how in the world did I get here? How can I let this change me? How can I let this turn me into a savage, into a monster? I have never been this way before. And that's the moment when you look that person in their eyes and say, you know what, forgive me. I know I'm not what I do. I don't even know how I ended up here. I'm sorry, your life is not more valuable than mine just because this unfortunate thing happened to me. That is that moment, not when they done got you in handcuffs, you on your way out, and now you want to look at the person and ask for their forgiveness. And glory be to God that Hope could have said, and it was a blessing that she did say in that moment, because she could have been bitter and angry and all kind of different things. And I'm sure she probably felt that way, because her life was on the line in those moments. She had no idea if that was going to be her last day, that day, in that moment, right? And she looked at him and said, she forgive him, because she has been forgiven. And that is one of the ways that does help to forgive somebody, is to think about, you have been forgiven. There was a time at some point in your life that you sought forgiveness from the Lord, and every single time he granted you that. So who are you to withhold that from somebody else? Okay, we have all been done wrong. Unfortunate things have happened to us all, but it takes a mature person, it takes a godly person, it takes a person who is more in love with God and love God more than themselves and the pleasures of this world, to say in that moment, you know what, I forgive you. Even though you did all of these different things to me that I did not deserve, that I did not ask to be in here, and all this different stuff, to say that. And so I did love the way that it ended, because it's like you felt both characters here. You felt Jake's, who was more on the evil side as far as his actions, and throughout the entire film, it would make the viewer, not like him. And then you get to the end, and it's like, really, were you both any different? Were you both any different? It was just on different scales, but according to God's eyes, in a sense, you both were the same. So you both deserve forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? And so I just love that, how that just tied together just in that moment. I really did get that. But getting back to the question, y'all, because y'all know I get so caught up in these things, and then I just leave out of here without even answer the question. So, because y'all answer the question as well in the comments, and I told y'all, it don't really matter how y'all answer. I'm just happy you answer, right? So, does desperation lead to evil? I'm going to say, in this case, yes, it did. Jake's actions really did lead to that point of no return. And he literally almost lost his soul trying to save his body. And that's real, y'all. That's very real. Because that's how a lot of us are living every day. You're losing yourself. You're losing your soul. You're closer to hell than any other place, because you're in desperation, trying to get the bag, trying to look like something, trying to be accepted. And it really makes you think about that, y'all. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into our scripture, right? And we are coming out of Jeremiah 17:9. Fits this perfectly, y'all. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? For real, sometimes you'll be in moments where, like, I felt like Jake was in his film. He didn't even know his own heart, because he would have never thought that he would went as far as he did, trying to save his body, because he certainly was on the road to losing his soul, y'all. So that's all I have for y'all for this video. Y'all, we've been loving these movie chats, putting them out there in the evening. Y'all get a review in the earlier afternoons, and then in the evening we chill, we talk about it, and we tie it to the word of God at the end. So y'all have a good night. Love y'all, and I will see y'all, Lord willing, in the next video. And until next time, may the Lord bless and keep you both now and forevermore.